Education webinar series. The series of webinars aim and objective is to prepare the civil aspirants to ready and achieve their goals. Today's webinar topic is Economic History of India 1857 to 1947. Today our speakers are Dr. Koti Reddy sir from ICFI, HOD and the Dean of ICFI School of Social Sciences, and Dr. Subhash Bharman. Sir will join later for the second technical session to deliver his talk.
The topic for my presentation is the economic impact of British Raj. The lecture is divided into 4 parts. In addition to the introduction, and we will have some idea on the status of the agriculture sector, industrial sector, and international trade during the British Raj. As part of the introduction, India has witnessed significant changes in its economic structure and development between 1857 and 1947. The economic impact of British Raj included those related to land ownership, industrialization, trade and taxation greatly influenced the Indian economy. The economic policies followed by the British led to rapid transformation of Indian economy into a colonial economy whose nature and structure were determined by the needs of the British economy. Land revenue experiments such as Lord Cornwallis permanent settlement system, Mahalwari system, and Rautwari system, and one-way free trade marginalized the Indian farmers and artisans. The British Raj transformed India into a supplier of raw material and a market for British goods. During British period, the number of landless laborers increased due to commercialization of agriculture. The Indian handloom weaving industry was hit by the industrialization in England, and eventually this industry collapsed in India. Despite some modernization efforts, the overall legacy of economic impact of British rule was one of economic exploitation and stagnation, leaving a lasting imprint on India's economy. The cultivators lacked means and incentives for agricultural investments, thereby the agriculture sector was affected adversely. According to Dadabhai Nauroji, the British rule resulted in the continuous and systematic outflow of wealth from India to Britain without any reciprocal benefit. Nauroji also argued that the drain of wealth from India to Britain was one of the main reasons India was so poor and underdeveloped. The exploitative taxation policies. The British Raj has adopted exploitative taxation policies. Such kind of policies destroyed India's indigenous industries, and oppressive land revenue systems led to widespread poverty. The introduction of railways facilitated rising imported commodities, further draining India's wealth. The high tax burden in India was disproportionately large relative to the country's wealth. The real wages of both skilled and unskilled workers in 1928 were roughly 50% of what they were in 1807. The decline in real wages of unskilled workers was much more, as they were not even 40% of the real wages in 1807. Though there was some improvement in the real wage rate of workers, but it was not enough to neutralize the decline in the earlier period. During the British Raj, many cities declined due to deindustrialization, and artisans moved to villages and engaged in agriculture. As a result, the pressure on land raised and it led to overburdened agriculture due to the economic impact of British rule in villages. And government has not allocated that much of resources for agriculture development, technological development, or mass communication. In 1820, India's GDP was 16% of the global GDP. By 1870, it had fallen to 12% and then to 4% by 1947. So from this, just we will come to know, India's share in the world GDP has come down drastically since 1820. By 1947, the India's share in world GDP stood at only 4%. The per capita income growth from 1850 to 1900 is estimated between 0.75% and 1.25% annually. From 1850 to 1947, India's per capita income had grown by 16%. India's share in global industrial output also declined from 25% in 1750 to 2% by 1990. In the last 50 years of colonial rule, India has witnessed some progress. This is likely the result of several kinds of public investments in railways, education, and irrigation, etc. According to a statistical abstract relating to British India, the number of educational institutions expanded sevenfold from 15,136 in 1862-63 to 107,415 in 1899-1900. During the same period, the length of railways increased tenfold from 2,234 miles to 23,512 miles. Under the permanent settlement system in Bengal, the land revenue to be paid by the Jamindars was fixed. In turn, Jamindars collected taxes from the peasants. Actually, Jamindars have collected huge amount in the form of tax from the peasants. Thereby, the agricultural incomes of the actual farmers have been declined. Under the Rautwari system, peasants are directly responsible for paying taxes to the government. Under Mahalwari system, village community was collectively responsible for tax payment. However, the tax rates were high, leading to widespread discontent among the farming community. The British colonial administration also imposed several commercial taxes, including customs duty and excise duty. These taxes were often designed to benefit the British interest at the expense of Indian industries. The Britishers exploited Indian resources through these taxation policies, leading to what is often referred to as the drain of wealth. So, from this, we can say most of the wealth was drained from India to England by adopting the defective taxation policies by the Britishers. Now, as part of my presentation, just I would like to focus on the status of agriculture during the British Raj. The colonial policies in India from the mid-18th century to 1947 led to commercialization of agriculture during the British rule. Farmers started growing crops for profits instead of sustenance needs. So farmers focused more on growing the commercial crops. The Britishers encouraged the Indian farmers to grow cash crops like cotton, jute, wheat, indigo, and opium, which were high demand in Britain. The traditional crops were neglected, forcing farmers to grow more commercial crops. The land revenue system, Jamindari system, spread of market system, and Swadeshi movement contributed to the commercialization of agriculture. The agricultural performance during 1918 and 1939 was dismal. From 1891 to 1946, the annual growth rate of all crop output was 0.4%, and the food grain output was practically stagnant. There were significant regional and intercrop differences. However, non-food crops doing better than food crops. Among food crops, by far, the most important source of stagnation was rice. Bengal had below average growth rates in both food and non-food crop output, whereas Punjab and Madras were the least stagnant regions. Between 1918 and 1939, population growth accelerated while food output decelerated, leading to decline in the availability of food per head. So it clearly reflects the per capita availability of food grains was a decline during the British rule between 1918 and 1939. The crisis was most acute in Bengal, where food output declined at an average annual rate of 0.7% from 1921 to 1946, when the population grew at an average annual rate of 1%. The British policies overburdened the agriculture sector, leading to poverty during the British Raj. The revenue rates under Raitwari system were 50% for dry land and 60% for irrigated lands, which resulted in excessive taxes that impoverished the farming community. The, as far as the Indian economy is concerned, before Britishers entering into the country, India was a self-sufficient economy. But the economy was hampered during the British rule. As more and more people dependent on agriculture, the dependency on monsoons increased, leading to widespread poverty, droughts, and famines. In the second half of the 19th century, the country has witnessed a series of famines. The first of these occurred in western Uttar Pradesh in 1860-61. It cost over 2 lakh lives. So 2 lakh people died due to this famine in western Uttar Pradesh. In 1865-66, a famine occurred in Orissa, Bengal, and Madras, in which nearly 20 lakh lives were lost. In 1868-70, in between 1868 and 70, 40 lakh persons died in western Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, and Bombay. In 1876-78, the worst famine in Indian history occurred in Madras, Mysore, Hyderabad, Maharashtra, and western Uttar Pradesh. In 1896-97, drought led to a countrywide famine which affected 9.5 crore lives and caused the death of over 45 lakhs. The famine of 1899-1900 quickly followed and caused the death of nearly 25 lakh persons. Another famine in Bengal in 1943 led to the loss of 3 million people. In addition to various plague and flu spread during British rule, so due to this kind of communicable diseases, 15 million people lost lives in 1918. So in 1918, Spanish flu spread across the world, and the soldiers returning from the World War led to its spread in India. It took more than 50 lakh lives. Now, as far as the uh, lecture is concerned, now I would like to focus on the industrial sector during the British Raj. Similar to the agriculture sector in India, the industrial sector also did not see that much of growth and development. Britishers followed the process of deindustrialization of Indian industries to make way for British industries to flourish. Textiles faced 80% tariff and lost competitiveness in the European market. Britishers stopped the practice of using handicraft exports by placing more tariff on handicrafts. Handicrafts faced stiff competition from machine-made products from England. Up to the First World War, India experienced the classic period of imperialism of free trade and the British government's unsympathetic hostile policy against the Indian industry. In addition to shortage of capital, management experience, and technical expertise, as well as the absence of growing indigenous market, general poverty. So all these things caused slow expansion of Indian industries. Even then, between 1850 and 1914, the foundations of modern industries were laid in India. Due to stiff foreign competition, Indian industries in the mid 1920s demanded protection in unwavering manner. To this end, the Fiscal Commission was appointed in 1921 that ushered in a policy of discriminating protection. During the interwar period, that is between 1919 and 1938, output of cotton piece goods, steel ingots, paper increased. Many other industries also progressed, even in terms of employment and the number of factories. But as far as the diversification was concerned, it was indeed slow, and the state of transformation of the Indian economy was only marginal. The Second World War, however, opened a new phase in India's industrial history. As the chapter of the World War II was different from that of the first, the latter created a far urgent and intense demand for rapid growth of the India's basic and key industries. The industrial output of large-scale industries expanded significantly, but also a more widening of industrial diversification became possible during the wartime years. During 1938-39 to 1945-46, the general index of output of all large-scale manufacturing activity at 1938-39 prices rose from 100 to 161, and that of factory employment increased from 100 to 159. British ships were given monopoly. Indian ships faced heavy duties, and the laws designed by the Britishers restricted the Indian-built ships also. The restrictions were on Indian steel imports, forcing higher standard production for the British use. As far as the progress of international trade during the British Raj is concerned, India's foreign trade was manipulated to benefit the Britishers. Britishers maintained monopoly over exports and imports of India. The British implemented restrictive policies on commodity production, trade, and tariff. As a result of restrictions on commodity production, more tariffs much of the foreign trade of India with the rest of the world was affected adversely. Nearly half of the foreign trade was exclusively reserved for Britain. Although some foreign trade was permitted with a few countries such as China, Ceylon, and Persia, the colonial authorities closely monitored these transactions. Despite such transactions, there was a considerable export surplus during the British Raj. However, the export surplus came at the expense of low production of essential goods such as clothing, food grain, and kerosene. Mainly, the export surplus came from this kind of essential goods, as because of the expense is very low in terms of producing these products. These resources was disproportionately diverted towards producing items for export, resulting in severe shortage of domestic goods. The Britishers used the export surplus to fight wars, pay for an office in Britain, and import invisible items. So far, we had a discussion on the status of agriculture sector, status of industrial sector, status of international trade, and the status of the tax system during the British. So, in conclusion, I would like to highlight there was hardly any economic development under the British rule. The constant per capita income over a long period, increasing dependence on agriculture, inadequate industrialization, the wealth drain from India to England, decline of handicrafts, and British monopoly over exports and imports of India are the clear proofs of economic underdevelopment under the British rule. So, with this, I have completed my presentation. I thank the Sakshi Media Group for giving me this opportunity to participate in the webinar.
Sir Subhash Burman, presently working as principal of Golpara College and in charge principal of West Golpara College. Dr. Burman is associated with many higher educational institutions and state government committees in the capacities as expert academic council member and also a governing body member, etc.
Offer my sincere thanks to Professor Tamma Kotti Reddy, who is Professor and Dean of ICFI School of Social Science. And I also I also offer my greetings to Sunita Isampali, who is Head Department of Economics, and those participants who are participating in this webinar. So already Professor Tamma Kotti Reddy has focused some very, very important dimensions of Indian history, particularly India's almost 200 years long British rule over this country and our regarding the India's struggle for independence. And he has very rightly with data and with detail, he has focused that the gradually Indian historians, economists, including Dadabhai Nauroji and all those great personalities, they have focused that the true purpose of British rule was not, unlike those colonial narratives like, doing good for Indian people. It was not the purpose. Purpose was to economically exploit this country. And it was a classic mercantile economy by which mother country wants to be rich by exploiting gold and silver from colonies. So India became a classic supplier of raw materials, and it became a classic colony. So, in fact, this is a well-arranged lecture because I sincerely expected such a lecture before my presentation, because it is all about, economic drainage, and even which become clearly visible with the famines. Professor Reddy has told is to focus on famines also, and the country witnessed unprecedented poverty. So all these things, it fully focus uh, the true nature of British rule in India. And still, we know that when we imagine talk about Indian freedom struggle, there are three phases. One was, moderate phases from 1885 to 1905. Then extremist phase, you can say. Then a Gandhian phase. So this was the period about which we are focusing, the partition of Bengal, and uh, how it led to economic nationalism in India. And uh, in our preceding lecture already, how Indian indigenous handicrafts industries were spoiled, and how it was it led the colonialism led its collapse. Those things have been focused. So Indian leadership gradually they start realizing that instead of requesting British, instead of sending appeal to the British, this gradually start realizing that we have to uh, follow a radical path. And this was the time when there was a growing national consciousness among Indians, particularly Bengal become the center of Indian nationalism, national consciousness. Along with Bengal, there was a serious awareness in Maharashtra, then in southern India, then in different parts of the country. And it was preceded by tribal uprising, Santhal, all those we know. So anyway, so gradually with the turn of the century, India witnessed a different political scenario, and this scenario almost for half day for almost for 50 years that will be followed. So Indian leaders, when they were start raising issues of exploitation, start raising issues of rights, because this is a period in which good number of leaders from India, they went to Britain, England, and they were exposed to Western ideas, particularly democracy, liberalism, political rights. Those issues they were exposed. So gradually they also start demanding these things, and this political consciousness and intellectual activities and growing awareness through press and media, it led to some sort of retaliation, or some sort of British start realizing, colonial states start realizing that if this is unsacked, if that consciousness is unsacked from Bengal, then it will be devastating for them. It may be a serious threat for British imperialism. As a result, by 1903, uh, in fact, Andrew Fraser and Bamfield, two lieutenant governor. One was responsible for the governance of Bengal, and other was responsible for Assam. They were supporting Lord Curzon and prepared the whole blueprint of partition of Bengal. And all of them, they were convinced that United Bengal will be very serious threat for British imperialism. And division of Bengal, particularly in the name of religion, if we can divide that united spirit against, in that united effort of the Indian people to fight against the British, then the British imperialism will be consolidated in India. Otherwise, the national consciousness will be more stronger. So by 1903, trajectory is that in 1903, they send a proposal to Risley, Herbert Risley, was Secretary of State for India, which is also known as Risley Papers, in which it was suggested how Bengal need to be divided. And interestingly, when we talk about Bengal, Bengal include present West Bengal, East Bengal, then Bihar and Orissa also. And there was a logical, argument that Bengal need to be partitioned because it's too fast to be ruled smoothly. But that division should have been on the basis of language. Oriya, we may have a separate state for Oriya or for Bihar also. But division was not on the basis of that. The whole imagination of this division was religion. It will be divided between West Bengal and East Bengal. In that East Bengal, Assam will be included, and the capital of Assam, which was formerly in Shillong, that will be shifted to Dhaka. So this proposal, when it was sent on the part of the British, they found it convenient, they found it most suitable for their colonial design, for their motive of divide and rule, so that they can rule this country for a long time. And we have seen that British, they argued that Bengal is too vast, so we need, for administrative convenience, we need to divide it. But the hidden agenda was to divide Indian people, the politically conscious, united Bengali people, into two groups. One will be Hindu and the other will be Muslims. And purpose was to make the Hindu Bengalis intellectuals a minority in both the states. These Hindu Bengali intellectuals, they played a very important role in West Bengal, in the whole Bengal province. They had a very important role. So if they are divided, then they will be marginalized. That was that was what they concluded, the British. So the real motive of Lord Curzon was to strengthen the British Empire in India by weakening the politically conscious Hindu Bengalis and thus to resist the growth of Indian nationalism. Through this plan, he tried to increase loyalty of the Muslims who were politically less conscious, and thus planned to sow the seed of communalism in Indian society. So on 2nd February 1905, Lord Curzon sent the proposal of partition of Bengal to Secretary of State for India in London for necessary approval. On 9 June, the proposal was approved. Telegram message was sent to Bengal. On 19 July 1905, the British government officially published the proposal that from 16th of October 1905, Bengal will be officially partitioned. So the 4 points program on the partition of Bengal declared by Lord Curzon on 1st September, this is the trajectory, was as follows. The first point of the partition of Bengal, the name of the new province will be Eastern Bengal and Assam. By annexation of Rajasahit, Dhaka, Chattogram to Assam. We had already a separate province, Assam. With that Assam, now Rajasahit, Dhaka, Chattogram will be annexed. And the capital will be of new Assam, new East Bengal and Assam state will be Dhaka. Then administration of Eastern Bengal and Assam will be handed over to a new lieutenant governor. And capital of Assam will be transferred from Shillong to Dhaka. And the second phase was there will be a separate high court in Dhaka for Eastern Bengal and Assam. Until a separate high court is established, the new province will be under the jurisdiction of Calcutta High Court. Then Calcutta will be the capital of New Bengal province, which include West Bengal, Bihar, Orissa, and Chotanagpur. And the partition will be implemented on 16th October 1905. So on the part of the because Indian National Congress was quite aware about the ill effect of this such partition. So leaders like Surendranath Banerjee, Bipin Chandra Pal, Aurobindo Ghosh, Rabindranath Tagore, Raj Bihari Bose, Ramendra Sundar Tripathi understood the conspiracy of the British government, and they were able to create awareness among the people against the conspiracy. They sent a appeal because in moderate phase there was always thinking was there that British were not aware about Indian issues. If they become conscious about Indian issues, they will solve it. So they sent a letter to Secretary of State for India with 70,000 signatures. But it became gradually clear that British was determined to partition India and Bengal, and eventually the people of Bengal as well as the whole country will discuss about what was the Swadeshi movement's impact on other parts of the country. Almost whole part of India start participating in it, and there was massive protest in Bengal, and we have seen that students also played a very, very important part in this partition of Bengal in this movement. They opposed it, and it was this is for the first time, we will discuss it in later stage, that for the first time India struggle for independence, it assumed a mass character. It started participated by all sections of society, women, students, and upper middle class, but still peasants, particularly those who are living at the bottom, they were not participating, or they did not have the enough opportunity. But still, this was the movement which for the first time Indian masses participated in this movement. And on the day of implementation of partition, which was 16 October, that day was celebrated as your mourning day, national mourning day. And there were, songs were there composed, and the people started, even that day was Ramendra Sundar Tripathi. He suggested the people of Bengal not to cook their food on that day. So magnitude was such. At the call of Rabindranath Tagore, the Bengali people of Calcutta observed Rakhi Bandhan on that day. One very important dimension of this movement was British tried to divide Hindus and Muslims. On the other hand, Rabindranath Tagore and leadership of the movement, they tried to unite Hindu and Muslims, and they tied Rakhis, Hindu women, they tied Rakhis to Maulavis and Muslim leaders, Muslim people. So now the theme of my whole theme is on economic nationalism, how economic nationalism, how this movement has worked as the background of India's economic nationalism. Because when the British, they rejected the prayer, the appeal of National Congress, then when they rejected, then the Indian leadership, they decided to go for boycott of foreign goods, British goods. At the beginning, Swadeshi movement was confined to the boycotting of foreign goods using indigenous goods. However, it was an economic pressure on the British. The intensity of the movement gradually increased, and so the amount of boycotting foreign goods also became higher. Aurobindo Ghosh said, this is philosophical sort of things that can be substantiated by statistical data, how coming or import of foreign goods was declining, how people started depending on their own goods. So boycotting means patriotism, and the essence of patriotism is the non-cooperation with British in all respect. This message from Saint Aurobindo made the feeling of patriotism more lively in the activities of this movement. People started avoiding British administration, government education institutions, schools, apart from foreign goods. Local goods were more appreciated by people. Even, during marriage, people start rejecting foreign gifts. If something, maybe foreign clothes or some foreign gifts are given during marriage, they reject. Even priests in their temples or in their holy places, they did not accept those foreign items as item of prayer. So people felt pride buying the things manufactured in India and by the Indians, and this helped in building up the foundation of Indian economy. The Indian people become united to uh, boycott the foreign goods which already occupied Indian markets. People developed a tendency not to pay their taxes not to pay the taxes to the government. Indian people become united to boycott the foreign goods which already occupied Indian markets. Though the main center of Swadesi movement was undivided Bengal, yet the impact of Swadesi movement was very, very strong in Maharashtra and also in South India. And under the leadership of Lokmanya Tilak, he played a very, very important role. And in fact, he was for a long time, for a long time, he was in prison also for supporting the cause of Swadesi movement. And in fact, Lokmanya Tilak was innovative and organic sort of leader. He tried to communicate the sense of national feelings among the common people masses through some local festivals, melas, even Shivaji festival, then Ganpati festivals. These were also used as part of the strategy to popularize the movement. When we talk about this Swadesi movement, its most important dimension is the emergence of Indian national industries. We must talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat now. Then, in fact, Tata, then P.C. Roy's work, we'll discuss it. On the background of Swadesi movement, the mentality for self-development grew in Bengal, and it brought a positive and congenial environment for the establishment of national industries. As the demand of local-made goods grew higher, several big industries and various small-scale industries came into being. Spinning machine, small and medium-scale handloom industries, industries for producing mustard oil, shop, sugar, matchboxes, etc. Many biscuit factories were established. Along with this, National Bank, for the first time, National Bank, established by our own way. Foreign banks were working. National Bank and national insurance companies came into existence. Then we know about Swadesi Bhandar, which was established by Rabindranath Tagore. Swadesi Bhandar, established by Rabindranath Tagore, became a reputed textile firm. At the prime time of Swadesi movement, Jogesh Chandra Chaudhary, Krishna Bihari Sen jointly established Indian stores at Bow Bazar, Calcutta. All kinds of India-made products were sold in this establishment. Another woman, again, she is from Tagore's family, Sarala Devi, started Lakshmi Bhandar at Cornwallis Street, New Bidhan Sarani. The United Bengal Stores was established by Abdul Halim Ghaznavi at Lal Bazar. Some extraordinary people like Jagdish Chandra Bose, then Prafulla Chandra Rai, Neil Ratan Sarkar planned to establish some heavy industries at Bengal to grow an atmosphere of self-development and self-reliance. Because already Professor Reddy has focused that India become a raw material supplier and a classic colony which only depend on foreign goods, finished goods. So this was a historic time that Indian leadership, they start thinking about building the national economy, national industries. And PC Roy, Neil Ratan Sarkar, they plan to establish heavy industries at Bengal to grow atmosphere of self-development, self-reliance. At the initiative of Neil Ratan Sarkar, Bongo Lakshmi cotton mill, this is a historic thing to remember. Neil Ratan Sarkar, Bongo Lakshmi cotton mill was established on 1st August 1906. Acharya Prafulla Chandra Roy started Bengal Chemical on 25th July 1906. Then Jamshedji Tata established iron factory in 1907. As a consequence of boycotting foreign goods and production of local industries, the number of imported goods come to be very low in India. Due to political movement in Bengal, the foundation of modern industries was laid in various provinces of India. That those industries, these were not only established in Bengal, in different parts of the country, new industries were established. The first industrial, this was very interesting, that the first industrial summit was held in on 17 December in 1905 under the chairmanship of R.C. Dotto at Varanasi. And this summit awakened the Indian about the prospect of indigenous industries in India. Even revival of many national industries were possible after this summit. In short, the Swadeshi movement opened a new chapter in the progress of Indian industries and business. In fact, when we talk about the latter phase of our freedom struggle, there Gandhi followed a good number of strategies, and it has much to do with this Swadeshi movement. And Swadeshi movement paved the way for the second phase, means the second phase or the most important phase of India's freedom struggle. But this Swadeshi movement was the result of already started political consciousness, already a group of leaders were trained up. So with the start of Swadeshi movement, at the turn of the century, the national movement took a major leap forward. And most important dimension of this movement is that this was a mass movement. Women, students, and large section of urban and rural population of Bengal and other parts of India became actively involved in politics for the first time. The next half a decade saw the emergence of almost all the major political trends of the Indian national movement, from conservative moderation to political extremism, from terrorism to incipient socialism, from petitioning and public speeches to passive resistance and boycott, all had their origin in the movement. The richness of the movement was not confined to politics alone. The period saw a breakthrough in not only in industry, also in Indian art, literature, music, science. Almost every, it was a 360-degree sort of movement that affected almost all each and every part of the Indian society. So when we talk about economic nationalism, then before that, I'd like to focus another thing, that is this Swadeshi movement, or which was the result of anti-partition or partition, the result of partition movement, partition of Bengal. It's the message of Swadeshi and the boycott of foreign goods soon spread to the rest part of the country. Lokmanya Tilak took the movement to different parts of India, especially Pune and Bombay. And in Punjab, Ajit Singh and Lala Lajpat Rai spread the message of Swadeshi. In other parts of northern India, Syed Haider Raja led the movement in Delhi, Rawalpindi, Kangra, Jammu, Multan, and Haridwar witnessed active participation in Swadeshi movement. Chidambaram Pillai took the movement to the Madras presidency, which was also galvanized by Bipin Chandra Pal's extensive lecture tour. Indian National Congress took up the Swadeshi call, and the Benares session in 1905 presided over by G.K. Gokhale, supported the Swadeshi and boycott movement for Bengal. The militant nationalists led by Tilak, Lal Balpal Tilak, Bipin Chandra Pal, Lala Rajpat Rai, and Aurobindo Ghosh were, however, in favor of extending the movement to the rest of India and carrying it beyond the program of just Swadeshi and boycott to a full-fledged political mass struggle. The aim now was Swaraj. This is a very important self-rule, Swaraj. And it was categorically stated that self-government or Swaraj like that of United Kingdom or the police. This was stated by Darabhai Nauroji in 1906 in the National Congress held at Calcutta session. It focused that the aim of Indian National Congress will be attain Swaraj, self-government or Swaraj like that of United Kingdom or the colonies. The difference between moderates and extremists, especially regarding the pace of the movement, technique of the struggle to be adopted, came to a head in the 1907. Eventually, we see, the historic Surat split came into forefront. And the Swadeshi movement, apart from its economic, contribution towards rebuilding the India's economic front, it was when we talk about Swadeshi movement, its political dimension is very important. Before that, in 1885, National Congress was formed, but for British and for the imperialists, it was a movement of a microscopic group. Now, political independence was to be achieved by converting the movement into a mass movement through the extension of boycott into full-scale movement of non-cooperation, passive resistance. The technique of extended boycott was to include, apart from boycott of foreign goods, boycott of government schools, colleges, courts, titles, government services, even organization of strikes. The aim was to make the administration under the present condition impossible by an organized refusal to do anything which shall help either the British commerce in the exploitation of the country or the British officialdom in the administration of it. Among several forms of struggle thrown by the movement, it was the boycott of foreign goods which met with the greatest visible success at the practical and popular level. Boycott and public burning of foreign clothes, even areas like interior areas like Assam, there also burning of foreign clothes was done. Picketing of shops selling foreign goods all became common in remote corners of the country, as well as in many important towns and cities throughout the country. Women refuse, I'm repeating, women refuse to wear foreign bangles, use of foreign utensils. Washermen refuse to wash foreign clothes. Even priests decline offering which contain foreign sugar. And there's some very interesting dimensions. This Swadeshi movement, it advocated that we should not go to government courts. So some community sort of things were established. Swadeshi Bandhav Samiti set up by Ashwini Kumar Datta, a school teacher in Borisal, was the most well-known voluntary organization of them. And this Swadeshi Bandhav Samiti, they solved almost 523 disputes through 89 arbitration committees. And when we talk about Swadeshi movement, the Swadeshi's another very important dimension is Swadeshi period also saw the creative use of traditional festivals, melas, as a means of reaching out to the masses. Melas are quite common in different parts of the country. So these melas were also used by the leaders of Swadeshi movement to propagate the ideology of boycott and to create consciousness. Traditional folk theater forms such as jatras were extensively used in disseminating the Swadeshi message in an intelligible form to vast section of the people. So drama and theaters were also used, many of whom were being introduced to modern political ideas for the first time. And another very important dimension of this Swadesi, when we talk about economic nationalism, the atmosopty, the self-reliance. Another important aspect of Swadesi movement was the great emphasis given to self-reliance or atmosopty as a necessary part of the struggle against the government. Self-reliance in various fields means the reasserting the national dignity, honor, and confidence. Further, self-help and constructive work at the village level was envisaged as a means of bringing about the social and economic regeneration of the villages and of reaching the rural masses. In actual terms, this means the social reform and campaign against evils such as caste oppression, early marriage, dowry system, consumption of alcohol. One of the major plank of the program of self-reliance was Swadesi or national education. I will not deal with the national education issues because that is again a vast issue, but for the first time, national education, the idea of national education came forefront, and national educational institutions were established, universities were established, and a system of education, literacy, scientific, technical, national lines under national control from primary to university level. In August 1906, National Council of Education was established. In fact, when we talk about our freedom struggle on last 26 November, we celebrated Constitution Day. So, the framing of our Constitution, it is also legacy of the freedom struggle. And this national education system, our Constitution is also based on our national identity, and it is also the legacy of our freedom struggle, whatever we learned, whatever we have found through this freedom struggle. So self-reliance also meant an effort to set up Swadesi or indigenous enterprises. The period saw mushrooming of, I have already told you, Bongo Lakshmi textile, mushrooming of Swadesi textile mills, shops, match factories. Eventually also in freedom struggle, we have seen that khadi become very popular and become symbol of India's national identity. Then this period saw a mushrooming of Swadesi textile mills, shop, match factories, banks, insurance companies, while many of these enterprises whose promoters were more endowed with patriotic zeal than with business acumen were unable to survive for long. Some others, such as Asarja P.C. Roy's Bengal Chemical Factory, became successful and famous. So this is for the first time Indian people, they start realizing that to check British rule, to rebuild this country, because India's freedom struggle is not only all about driving out the British from India. It was also all about erecting a new structure, a new democratic structure. Its industries, because if India became independent, but if it economically depend on foreign countries, then that independence does not carry meaning. So these values, that legacy was part of this Swadesi movement, and it taught that once this country became free, then we need a national economy, and this is the greatest contribution of our Swadesi movement. So at the end of the lecture, I would like to point out that Swadesi movement, partition of Bengal, and its economic impact was the economic nationalism, Indian leadership, Indian Indian leadership, and India's a new group of people were coming up who start leading India's economy also. So, but this movement has some weakness also. One was it failed to attract largest part of the Muslims because they were politically less conscious. That was the region. And but the success of the movement is in 1911, British had to uh, repeal the partition of Bengal, and and it inspired the future generations of our freedom fighters, and it also gave confidence to Indian masses and their dependence, particularly their dependence on their own, Atmanirbhar Bharat and Atmanirbhar, self-reliance. This is the message of the women, and great personalities like Tagore also involved in that struggle. So uh, actually, I'm not giving the statistical data. Statistical data also prove that during the course of Swadeshi movement, import from foreign countries was declining, and custom duty and those things were British become looser, and this was all about people of India. The colonialism was meant for selling clothes from Manchester's and York, and so it received a serious blow. So thus Indian leader the Swadeshi movement, it become a important landmark in the history of India's freedom struggle. Thank you very much.
Education webinar series. The series of webinars aim and objective is to prepare the civil aspirants to ready and achieve their goals. Today's webinar topic is Economic History of India 1857 to 1947. Today our speakers are Dr. Koti Reddy sir from ICFI, HOD and the Dean of ICFI School of Social Sciences, and Dr. Subhash Bharman. Sir will join later for the second technical session to deliver his talk.
The topic for my presentation is the economic impact of British Raj. The lecture is divided into 4 parts. In addition to the introduction, and we will have some idea on the status of the agriculture sector, industrial sector, and international trade during the British Raj. As part of the introduction, India has witnessed significant changes in its economic structure and development between 1857 and 1947. The economic impact of British Raj included those related to land ownership, industrialization, trade and taxation greatly influenced the Indian economy. The economic policies followed by the British led to rapid transformation of Indian economy.